All right. Yes. I believe we're here. Hello and welcome everyone to the 14th annual Buffalo International Film Festival.
All right.
Oh, yeah, we got a little feedback loop.
I believe we're here.
Just mute me. So we can see what the delay is, and so can everyone else. Oh, and Stacey is here as well. Welcome to our organized chaos, also known as the 14th annual Buffalo International Film Festival. I'm Anna Chimay. I am the interim executive director. First and foremost, I would just like to begin by acknowledging where we are. I am, not everyone, but some, and I am in Buffalo, New York. And this is Haudenosaunee territory, the land of the Seneca. And we are very grateful to be here. Now, I also want to acknowledge that we have some truly magnificent and generous sponsors that make this festival possible. And just really quickly, I would like to read through them, starting first and foremost with the New York State Council on the Arts, or NYSCA, the Electronic Media and Film Program with support from Governor Andrew Cuomo and the New York State Legislature. I'd also like to acknowledge our home theater, where we were unable to screen this year, but who is also our office and home base, the North Park Theater. Hi, Ray, thanks for everything. The Birchfield Penny Art Center, who is hosting our Stain and Woody Visolka exhibition and helping to put on Barbara Hammer's, Hallwell's Contemporary Art Center, Squeaky Wheel Film and Media Art Center, Erie County, the City of Buffalo, Delaware District, Lelena, our media sponsor who made the beautiful website, Lipsitz Green, Chimay and Cambria, yes relation, the Consulate General of Canada in New York, as well as the National Film Board of Canada, to whom we're incredibly grateful. Give for Greatness program, Art Service Initiative of Western New York, as well as their Arts Access program. The Media Arts Assistance Fund, 1120 Projects, Dark Alley Drive-In, Canisius College, Albright Knox Art Gallery, and Buffalo Toronto Public Media, and 1120 Projects, and Whitland, Cane and Drive. So anyway, thank you so very, very, very much. I'm also here today and very pleased and honored to be here today with Tammy McGovern, one of our board members, and Renee Saraki, another one of our board members, and the wonderful filmmakers from our Racial Justice in View Shorts Block. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm just going to actually call them out and make them introduce themselves really quickly, and then we're going to hop into questions. And we are watching our social media, so if you'd like to submit a question, please do on those formats, and we will try and pass them along. So first, Loka Benson.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Loga Benson, and I'm a second-year graduate student at the University of Buffalo.
Thank you, Loka. Next up, we have Sydney Morgan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Morgan. I'm the writer, director, producer, and one of the actors in the film Hughes and Hidden Kings.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Next up, we have Dan, is it, shoot.
Leo.
Yes, Lior.
Yeah. My name is Dan Lior. I'm originally from Israel. I live now in Brooklyn, and I'm an independent filmmaker, and I've created only in Toledo.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Next up, we have Akash Dewan.
Hi, I'm Akash. I'm a senior at University High School in Orange County, California, and I'm the director of We Are the Revolution.
Wonderful. Thank you, Akash. Next up, Clementina Budnik.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clementina Budnik. I'm from the Philly area, and I run KXP Studio, which is an animation studio and school.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Maya Bastian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Bastian. I'm a writer, filmmaker, and artist based in Toronto. And I have two films in the program, Air Show and Arrival Archives.
Thank you, Maya. Next up, we have Lick Me Scary.
Hi, I'm Lick Me Secret. My pronouns are...
No problem. Let me do Lick Me Secret. I'm sorry.
Oh,
please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lick Me Secret. My pronouns are she, her, he, him. I'm the 3D animator and filmmaker of V in the Day, and I'm currently studying at Pratt Institute in my junior year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lick Me. And Last but certainly not least, Stacey Larkins.
Yeah, hi, my name is Stacey Larkins. I'm the writer and director for Jabari Keating.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you all so very much for being here. We're extremely excited to have your work. Just to start off, I would actually love to screen share a little bit. I'm just going to click through and kind of try and feature a few seconds of each person's film. It's going to be at random because I'm at random right now myself. But before we ask a couple questions, I just want to give the audience a taste of what they can watch for free for another just shy of 48 hours, or yeah, a little, actually around 30 or so.
Hey, Anna, did we skip Renee?
Renee Saraki?
Yeah, sorry. Did we
I don't know. Renee, did I skip you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Clementina.
There are a lot of us. I think that's part of the
thinking of me though. Thank you.
That was actually a really
making sure.
we're already making a round table of the Zoom. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to screen share and just kind of roll through a little bit, and then we'll pop off and we'll start asking y'all some questions about your amazing films. Thank you. Here we go. Get a nice little feedback loop going. Oh, all right. Now you're seeing some back ends here. Nope, more back ends, emails that haven't been answered. Where are we? Oh, okay. Yes, here we are. So here is our screening block.
In my career, I've never come across any form.
And so there's a couple artists that aren't here, such as this artist, this film. This is one of Maya's.
She never thought she'd ever be a refugee in her entire life. It was never something she had expected. She had a home, she had kids, she had her husband, she had her work, and the idea of losing all of those things and then going into another country that was not your home was never something she had ever crossed her mind.
Were you sad?
Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. I'm sorry to say, y'all have to watch it if you want to watch it. And it's well worth watching it. Oh, and here we have our next feature. Hughes and Hidden Kings, another great one.
Tell me a man who's been profiled down, made assumed of being a criminal, but with the consciousness of a king. Tell me a man who had to be sat down as a boy to be reassured that their worldview would be made different, to prepare themselves to withstand hate.
Tell me a man anxious to fit in, being institutionally separated from one's own species because of the physical color difference viewed not to be of mankind. Why should any race be condemned? I've helped build the foundation of this presidential place. I've helped lives in battle.
I have helped cure the sick.
All right, so we're gonna scroll through there. Again, you'll have to go online and watch it for free. This is another great film. This one's actually in Buffalo, and unfortunately the filmmaker's not here. But just a little taste of that. We're in the barbershop. See if I can show you a little bit of our beautiful home here. Oh, yeah, there's the iconic snow, some music. It's a really beautiful little doc. And then here we're actually back to Maya.
ஊர்ல மாதிரி ஒன்றுக்கு பயப்பட தேவையில்லை மச்சான். இங்க அங்க பயப்படுற மாதிரி இல்லை மச்சான். இங்க நல்ல வழியா இருக்குதா நல்ல இது சும்மா இங்க நாங்க பிள்ளைல கூட்டிட்டு போலாம்.
All right, so again, just teasing you all and just up. Here we have Jabari.
Like the guy who changes his plane flight to the one that eventually crashes, or the person that opts for a later flight only to find that that decision spared their life. I unknowingly made one of those decisions. I remember when I was growing up. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
All right, so this is a very interesting, beautiful film as well.
I became back down south.
Here we are
with
with
not
Be
much
in the
happening
Day.
outside. In Harlem, something is happening all the time. People are going every which way.
All right. I don't think Bradley made it.
Oh, that's a nice day. Hi, I'm a werewolf. And I'm out here chasing the American dream. A little Miss American. Came over from Transylvania around 2016, third quarter-ish. Hasn't been the easiest of transitions, but such is life. Just have to work hard, establish strong relationships within the community, and since I'm an immigrant, occasionally bury an ice cream in my backyard.
Now we're up here with Akash.
You are colorblind, and what you tell me is you are blind to my pain, blind to the experience I feel every day. Every time they put their knee on someone's neck, we all feel it. Anymore. This is why we are all here, putting our bodies on the line. Full strength, street. Full strength, street. Full strength, street. Activism doesn't just build character; it reveals it. I look at you, and you, and I see a revolution.
Into this community, and following that, why I began to hear on the radio and read in the newspaper that there was some disturbance around this home that these people had bought.
Some of the people are definitely against integration, and they have told my children that they.
So I don't want to show everyone the program because they really should go watch it. It's amazing. But that is the gist of it. So as you can see, there is an incredible diversity of aesthetics, of concepts, of tone, of approach. There's humor. There is work that's very powerful and punches you in the pit of your stomach. So yeah, it's all over the place, although there are certain themes that run throughout all of these pieces that I think connects them to this conversation about racial justice in the US and Canada right now. So anyway, without further ado, I just would like to start it off by asking every filmmaker, how did you arrive at your tone and aesthetic, and what inspired you to make these pieces? Maybe I'll start with Clementina, because you're the first one in my view block.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for organizing, and thanks for everyone who's watching. In general, this was a commissioned music video, so the inspiration really did come from the song. And what I was doing at the time was offering people discounts on animation services if there was some kind of a social justice, like social impact video. So I was able to connect with the musicians. They're named Johnny Showcase and the Mystic Ticket. And they allowed me to really be very free with the aesthetic and the storyline. And the thing from the song that really got to me was just the revelation that the 2016 election had on me. I feel like a lot of things came to light in my life, and maybe it's also just because I was becoming more of an adult in life in general, just seeing a lot of things that I hadn't really noticed before. And the aesthetic, I feel like I made the character look almost like a self-portrait of myself. So the character is loosely based on my experiences at the time. I used paper cutout puppets to create the animation. And the reason that I wanted to do that was because I wanted to get a lot of details in each scene, and not so much focus on the animations, but kind of create these like rhythmic loops with the paper cutout puppets. So that was my decision, because I was able to just add in a lot of texture using like the watercolors and the paints and the collages, and then just have a lot of color and a lot of detail, which I thought that the song really inspired that kind of aesthetic. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Clementina. Yeah, it's very energetic, and I love the watercolor and the texture and the layered feel. Lick Me, would you mind speaking a little bit to your aesthetic tone concept?
Yeah. So I'm a 3D artist and I'm currently studying, so I wanted to incorporate a very like handmade feeling with the animation, and I focused a lot on backgrounds. The film, it takes place on 125th Street in Harlem and the subway station there. So I wanted to incorporate like a lot of the grime, the texture, the feeling of being in the subway station, especially at times when maybe there aren't a lot of people there at the time. And this film was made like pre-COVID, so a lot of times people are like, oh, like, is it empty because COVID? And like, I made it before I even knew what COVID was. But yeah, and a lot of that aesthetic comes from that. And then also just like the uplifting colors and bright colors that you see in a lot of like children's animation. So this is a lot where inspiration, where the like color aesthetic comes from. Yeah.
It's really lovely as well. Stacey, do you mind also?
Well, I'll first say that my film was inspired by current events, the current political climate, social media, and its responses to systemic racism, whether it's acknowledging it, ignoring it, or being irritated by it. In terms of aesthetic, if you notice in the film, I use a lot of red, white, and blue. So in a lot of scenes, I use the colors red, white, and blue. I also wanted to give like a surreal look to things, and use a lot of faded images, and sometimes black and white to go back in the past, and that type of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really diverse. I love it. The look of the piece. Renee doesn't get a question, but Loga does. Loga, you use a lot of archival materials. You treat it. Talk to me about your aesthetic and concept and tone.
Yeah, I use a lot of archival because I just couldn't find a way to like film it myself. But I like the decision of using archival materials because archival material, they have a lot of meaning in them. They have a lot of, there's a lot of history in those images. And so I wanted to to kind of play around with that a little bit and also show how there's also like in the current climate, there's, we're dealing with a lot of these same issues of racism, justice, inequality. And in the archival material that I used, there's a lot of reference to that. So similar to Stacey, there's a lot of I used a lot of juxtapositions with these older images and recent images of protesting, etc. As you see in the film, there's a lot of kind of layering that's also happening as well. And there's a lot of, I'm playing a lot with the opacity. I'm kind of lowering the opacity as I'm layering. And as I'm also doing that, I'm also on certain images, I'm messing with the color. And there's a lot of color distortion. So that kind of layer of that complexity of layering, lowering the opacity and then messing with the colors, I think really created a very powerful effect in that, to me, it spoke to that layer of the history that's contained in those images. So, that was kind of why I went with the approach. I also use a lot of repetitions as well. So like if you see in some of the films, there's this one scene in particular where this guy is spitting at the camera. He does this at least 3 times. And I love repetition because it really forces you to pay attention to what's happening. And at that moment for me was a very powerful moment because it was contrasted with this Black guy talking about his pain, talking about, the suffering of Black people and how there needs to be equality. And all of a sudden we see a juxtaposition of this repeated image of this white guy kind of spitting at the camera. So for me, that was a beautiful moment of using the archival image to kind of speak to one another. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting approaches here, but mostly there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of color distortion, and that's mostly how I work in general. So yeah.
I love it. It adds a really unique art house aesthetic too. So it's beautiful on top of being, difficult, but important and interesting. Dan, do you mind please speaking a little bit about your aesthetic, tone, concept?
Yeah, thank you. Only in Toledo, it was a super quick project. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I had to film it and edit it in a matter of a few days. So I turned to one of my favorite films online called Raised by Crump by a filmmaker called Marcel Frost. And it's a beautiful film about the crump scene in Los Angeles. So I kind of based the entire tone, the grading, the filming, the angles, the camera work, kind of based on his film. And I tried to ground it as much as I can to the location where it was filmed, which is Toledo, which is a very industrial town, very harsh town. And I tried to portray that through the exposition of the place and through the grading. But it was mostly based on Raised by Crump, which I can't recommend enough. Beautiful film.
Yeah, it is a beautiful film. And I will say, I don't know if you've been to Buffalo, but we look a lot like Toledo in some parts, especially, unfortunately, near our waterfront. Maya, do you mind please speaking a little bit to your aesthetics and your different pieces? Thank you, Dan.
Sure. Well, for Air Show, which is a short narrative, I didn't really plan the aesthetic too much because it was a really low budget film, but it actually worked out well in that I was trying to accurately replicate the refugee newcomer experience. And I really wanted people to feel in that world of what it's like to arrive here and have nothing and live a very sparse and troubled existence. And so, lower budget really worked with that aesthetic. It was gritty and real, and it felt, hopefully it feels like you're in it with them, which was really, really important for the topic of the film. And then I love that you guys programmed these 2 films because Arrival Archives is actually a response to Air Show. Because when I made the film Air Show looking at refugee reactions to military air shows, it got picked up by the press in Canada, and I got a lot of angry people. anger directed at refugees, saying, why don't you go back home? Why don't you go back where you came from? Also saying, if refugees don't like an air show, why don't they leave and go somewhere else for the weekend? You know, like really things that really showed me that people don't really understand what refugees and newcomers have to go through. So I made Arrival Archives as an homage to arriving in Canada. And I wanted it to be light-filled and beautiful. And I wanted to show, you know, our archival footage, home movies of us, you know, riding our bicycle, things that you only see really like white people doing in home movies, canoeing in a lake, you know, things like that. So our Arrival Archives is really meant to be a response, but a light-filled, heartwarming look at what it feels like to arrive. So the colors and everything was really geared towards that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that the neo-realist approach definitely works, and it makes it a very empathetic and intimate thing, I think, as well, to use the personal home archives. You know, there's an immediate sense of intimacy. And, oh, excuse me, I have allergies. Nope, it's not going to happen. No, yeah, no, okay. All right, went with a cough instead. But yeah, no, thank you. I love the way your pieces look and the sound of them as well. Let me pop over to Akash now. Thank you so much, Maya.
Hi. So my film was the documentary on the protest. And I think the biggest thing that drove me to make the film was seeing the misrepresentation, the media's misrepresentation of the protests, and how, you know, they were only covering all of the violence and the looting, and that seemed to be what many people characterized the protests with. And you know, I come from a very like privileged background, and I come from a very safe city. It's almost like a bubble, and so we are very far removed from everything that's happening. And everything in the political climate. And so we just get like an outsider's perspective, and our only like viewpoint of what's actually happening is through the media's lens. And after seeing how it was completely being skewed, and after having like attended the protests myself and seeing, you know, the love and the passion and the peace that was present there, I felt the need to try my best to like represent this, and I wanted to, you know, like speak out and try to you know, find a way to open the people's eyes to what they're actually like, but I couldn't really find the words to do so because I realized it's not really my story to tell. And you know, after going to all these protests and hearing these amazing speeches from all these people, I realized those are the words that I need to use. I can't, you know, fabricate any words that would be as powerful as what these speeches have. And so, you know, I just went to all these protests, and I think tone-wise, I just wanted to make it as powerful as I could, and as because I'm doing this to change the minds of many of the people in my life that have this baggage of privilege, and so I wanted to make it as like real as I could. And so, you know, that came with overlaying a lot of so using just raw audio, and then overlaying it with different protest chants and getting up close to the speakers when they're speaking to try to make it and try to capture like the ambiance of the protest to make it feel like, you know, the audience is there in the protest. They can get some kind of a glimpse of what it's actually like. And it was just about showing everyone the reality. It's not even about trying to make up some reality of what they're like. It's just literally, this is what they're like. And I wanted to incorporate a lot more optimism, because I feel like a lot of the times people's approaches to this topic is this is the problem, everything's going wrong. And like, I noticed I was going into expecting to hear a lot of like, you know, speeches that would make me sad and things like that. But there was so much optimism, and there were so many speeches that were giving us the glass half full mentality and the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I really wanted to represent that, to, you know, show people that, you know, yeah, this is the reality, but there is hope for the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Akash. It actually, yeah, it does bring you into the protests, and it does make it riled me up anyway, and made me feel hopeful and inspired and aware. So I think that at least it worked on me. I can speak for that. I think, Sydney, we haven't gotten to you yet, right? Thank you so much, Akash.
Hi, guys. So for Hughes and Hidden Kings, kind of like Clementina, I was inspired by the Trump inauguration. We filmed Hughes and Hidden Kings on the day that he got inaugurated. It was my way of saying, as African American people, Black people in the diaspora, who we were. It's a poetic dialogue. With Hughes, for instance, it's like I separated in my brain the women and the men, and then us coming together. For Hughes is really based on African American women or Black women in the diaspora's experience with our skin complexion. It was my way of saying that, you know, our different hues of our colors is what makes us beautiful. And when we know that we are beautiful from the inside, the entire world knows that we're beautiful. I found that power. With Hidden Kings, it was a poetic dialogue of the men standing up for who they are in a society that sees them hidden. And for instance, with Hughes, the different colors of illuminating their faces. And it was the way that we rehearsed it, it took 3 months to rehearse in a dance room to get us all in sync. I just wanted to capture the lights and the illuminating with the wardrobe and just really showing like the women looking like queens. And then the men, I wanted them to wear the outfits that they wear on their regular day of life, because unfortunately here in society, you know, a Black man walking down the street is being profiled. And I had to tell them, no, you're kings, no matter what you wear and no matter who you are. So yeah, that was my take.
Awesome. Well, it's a beautiful performance and it's shot so impeccably, and yeah, it's really gorgeous. Thank you. I think Tammy's messaging me that she has some questions, and we'll kind of go through there as well, and then maybe Renee as well, and maybe we can just open it up then and just talk to each other about the work. Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, I love this program. You guys have just such a diverse set of work and approaches, and as Anna talked about, aesthetics here. I really appreciated some of the discussion a little bit earlier, just about like history and archives and using like sort of archival footage and that connection with like history and memory. And I just wanted to put that out there, something that I think is really important and I'm really happy to see here. But also along aesthetics, I think that a lot of these pieces, and of course in yours, Sydney, but in several of these, music plays a pretty significant role. And even for pieces where music is not specifically music, like in Loga's piece, for example, there's just such a rich soundscape. And even in Maya's air show, like sound seems like so important. So I'm just wondering if some of you could talk a little bit about your use of sound in your pieces. Any of you can start that.
I'll start. With Air Show, it was, I'm really glad that you caught on to that, because it was really important. Sound was really important. I did a lot of research about trauma and survivors of trauma and how they process. And one of the things that repeatedly kept coming up was sound and how the way sound is triggering. And because we were looking at military air shows, obviously the sound is the thing that, it's not just seeing them in the sky, it's that crazy earth-shattering sound of the bombers flying over. So for us, it really, if you watched it without the sound, it would just look like a regular man and his daughter going about their day. But once you put in the soundscape, you really start to experience the way that trauma affects your brain. where you can be in a normal situation every day, and yet you're hearing and experiencing things in your mind that people might not even know. And that was really important. Like even when he goes into the food bank, you know, it was like jump cuts, and it was a disorienting experience. Something very simple becomes very, very difficult. And it was a way of exploring trauma and its effects, and also really being able to convey that to an audience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really feel like the terror that you know, it's such a moving story, and it's just told in such a simple way, but like the sound really, like, I think drives that home. So anyways, but thank you.
Thanks.
To answer the question, for V in the Day, there's actually two different versions of V in the Day. There's this version which has Giorgio D'Angelo's Dreaming, which is a music I could get the copyright to, but also encapsulated the sound I needed. But then the original version of V in the Day has the soundtrack of Billie Holiday's I'll Be Seeing You. And the reasons I timed and spaced the animation to this song is because she is a very iconic singer from Harlem, and the entire movie encapsulates like Harlem Renaissance excellence. The film is based off of the Langston Hughes and Roy D. Carver's poetry book and photography book, A Sweet Flypaper of Life, and as well as the characters, and Rodney is kind of like an escaped version from A Sweet Flypaper of Life into modern day Harlem. And the noises of the train, and there's just the like ambiance of like what you would hear, like the draining or just like monotonous noise of the train, and the whistling is something I wanted to encapsulate to make you really feel like you're in a subway and you're in the cart and you feel the rattling and the shaking, especially with 3D animation, because it's just pictures, and it's just like a setup and a simulation and all these things. So definitely sound was a big aspect in creating the aesthetic of the film, and also getting the texture and the grit that I wanted from that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add for Hughes and Hidden Kings, thank you so much for the question about sound and song. For me, to be quite honest, the song is what inspired me to write the poem, with both of the poems. I was watching Birth of a Nation movie by Nate Parker, and the ending scene of the credits was a song called I Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray, which is arranged by the Wiley College and by Stephen Hayes. And I watched it and I was like, what? Oh my gosh. And, you know, the inspiration from that song is that it's a song from the African American church, like old time. And it was a time when African Americans, you know, we were learning how to speak a language that we were only hearing by sound. And it shows our prolific structure. And, you know, we had a moment when rehearsing because some of the actors couldn't understand, you know, why the words were pronounced the way that they were. And it's, you know, I had something came to me where the thought of, you know, these people we had to originate, and it shows the roots of who we are. And it's the inspiration of all of it coming from Africa, and in the film having African symbols on us with Hughes, of the growth that we had as people to become the kings and queens that we really are for the country of America.
Yeah.
So I think for We Are the Revolution, sound design was just the biggest use for it was just trying to make the protest as real as it could be and as tangible, because I was trying to display the reality. So it was incorporating as much sound, like real time sound that I could. And so it was like me going around with my voice memos on my phone or my my Rode mic on my camera, and just trying to capture as many moments as I could to try to incorporate them. Because like once again, I wanted to make the viewer feel like they were immersed in the experience, they were feeling everything. And so I thought sound was definitely like one of the biggest parts of that.
Yeah.
I'll take a stab at it. Yeah, thank you for that question and that observation. Yeah, in my film, Time to Leave, sound was, I want to say it was important, but I'm kind of conflicted sometimes because the film went through many iterations, and the first version was just kind of no sound. It was just all audio from the archival material that I was using. And there's something about, kind of like Akash was talking about, trying to capture the raw sound of something. There's something about that raw sound of an image or an event that really pulls you in, and it really speaks to the pain and the angst of what the characters in that image are sort of experiencing or going through. And so I wanted to keep the film completely, audio free almost. But then as the film evolved, as I kind of sat with it and got advice from other professors and friends, the decision changed to me adding sound to it. And when I added sound to it, it wasn't a lot of flashy sound. So what I pretty much did was I used a music by Billie Holiday called Strange Fruit, and also another music from Nina Simone called I Ain't Got No Love. And those two choices, I think, was a really good choice for the film, because those two singers, they're part of the African diaspora, right? And so because of that, they're part of that history of trying to belong, the history of trying to find your place in a society that on its face rejects you at every opportunity. So I went with those two music, and I went with those two musics, but I wanted to also keep it limited as well. I didn't want to use a lot of songs, and like, how, we often see that in other films, there's a lot of music going on. I try to keep the music as minimal as possible so that you're just focusing on these images. The images themselves to me were very powerful. And as my one professor said, you have to let the image speak, as though the image is like a person. And I never thought about that before. So in the film, that's why you see there's less use of, music, but it's more like almost raw sound, like Akash was talking about. And I really love that approach, because I think it gave the film that kind of rawness and that grittiness that, I don't know, that the film really, really deserved. So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and the way you just spoke about how you use music in there, I think that it really, like, it feels like a material that's like mixed in there more than like music that sort of leads the feeling of it. It's more of that like sort of way that like it feels like the past, like the way it's still here and haunting or present. And I think it's a really powerful use of that material. Thanks.
Thanks.
I can jump in. For my film Little Man, it was very driven by the music, because that was the original source material. And I was really drawn to this song specifically for two reasons. And one was that part of the music kind of had a very trippy, like fever dream aspect to it. And that's how I felt so much these past 4 years, just kind of not understanding and being bombarded with so many different things in the 24-hour news cycle. And then at the end, it's very inspiring at the end, and kind of like a galvanizing tone. And that's, I made this film in January of 2020. And at that point, I was tired of feeling like sorry for myself and like the situation, and I was excited to make something that was inspiring, and to try to get people to come out and vote and be active in your community. So that's how the music really played a role in the making of this film.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that film provides a much needed uplifting feeling about, like, you know, the power that we have in these times. So yeah, thank you.
Anyone else on sound design? You know, Stacey has some great noises, and so does Dan, but they don't have to make them now. We can get to the next one as well.
Yeah, I can go. I usually do I do heavily use sound design usually in my films, but in this one I actually muted a lot of the ambience, and I based it more on the music and the narration. It was kind of funny because I knew that the Sean voice had to have a very heavy impact on the film and his message. And basically what we did is we just went into into my motel room, and I built this pillow fortress kind of between the beds, and I took the LAV, the lav mic, and I hooked it to a lamp right in front of his voice, and we just kind of like sat there with each other for about an hour and a half and just had a conversation. So all the sound bites that came out and everything you hear Deshaun says, it wasn't a script. It was just basically me and him have a conversation. And me not being, not being born in the United States and being an outsider, who was raised on a Western culture, I kind of knew. You know, you think you know about the culture and the diversity and what a person is going through from watching the news and television and the movies, but it was during that conversation that it's kind of a slap to the face. He just went on to say a sentence that kind of became synonymous with the film, and he said there's no American dream for a Black person, which was, for me, that's another thing he said, that's something you can never understand. You can't understand until you're part. And when he said those things and when I started editing the film, it became more apparent to me that I actually have to decrease the surrounding sounds and the ambience and basically raise his voice over everything else. So yeah, it was different from what I usually do, and I think it had a very important element in the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that story. It's so direct. It feels so important, that idea of, it starts out with this like representation, and then it goes so much sort of deeper, but it feels so grounded in the personal and the individual experience. And I think the sound really highlights that. So I love the way that you just talked about it coming out of conversation, and I think that comes across really strongly in the film. So
yeah, thank you.
I can speak on it too. For me, music is really was big in the film. My husband and I both wrote the music. We're both musicians. Our day jobs are band teachers. So any project that I do, it's going to have a heavy music element to it. The intro was inspired. I wrote it inspired by like a John Cage piece. I wanted to do like a chance music kind of thing. Being that main character, something negative happened to him by chance. So that was the intro. And then there were some patriotic themes that my husband wrote. But as I mentioned, anything that I have is heavy on music, because I think it enhances the visuals so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a really beautiful piece, really strong. But So that piece, this kind of departs from that, but that piece, like, was there an element of that was, did you totally create a fictional character from that, or was that like inspired by?
It was inspired, but the story came first. And then I thought about it, how the main character, what happened to was by chance. And then I love John Cage. And so, you know, I thought about taking a sort of a chance music type piece and try to mimicking the concept of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Huge Cage fan myself, Stacey. I love that you said that. I didn't draw that connection, but now I see it everywhere. Thank you for bringing that up. So I guess, Renee, I think you had some questions now, right? Did everyone that wanted to speak about their sound design get a moment to do so? I'm sorry, there's so many of us. It's wonderful. And then, you know, we want to keep you all. Okay, I'll give it to Renee now.
Okay, thanks everyone. I just wanted to say I enjoyed and appreciated and loved all your films, the different textures, the different aspects, the animation, live action, documentary was just phenomenal. So my question, and then I might go a little bit off script, but my question is, what was your process, and what did you discover in the process? What new challenges did you find? Did you change? Did you evolve? Did you adapt? Did you make different choices as you continued the project, or was it set in stone? And also, I think, and this is my little additive, did you see a tension between making a film with a social justice message, a very strong message about equality and opportunity, and the entertainment artistry part of it? You know, the kind of like, you want to make people watch, you want to enjoy the polemics and the other part. So I guess it's a two-part question, everyone. That's it. Please enter. Anyone have a question about the process? Should I start with, I don't know, please.
I can go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Clementina.
The process for me, animation takes a really long time for anybody who's tried to do it. And I made this film in a month, and that was the fastest that I've ever made anything in my life before. And I was up against the deadline, so there were a lot of nights where I was in the studio, past midnight, and just really working harder than I had ever worked before. And I mean, in that process, just for myself, I learned that what I thought was my limit, I can actually exceed that. So I think that was an interesting thing personally that I learned from making the film. And then just in the process, I really was trying to find a lot of joy in the making of the animation. So I was trying to make things that, the scenes that would make me laugh. And so whenever I was working on something, I just try to think of the most ridiculous things that I could do to incorporate it. And then, as I accomplished scene by scene, it made me happy to work on it. And it was exciting that it's not the first film that I've done that had a more of a global message, but it was the most recent since my college years, and that definitely was inspiring, and it helped me get through those long nights to know that this film wasn't just my story to tell, but also could be something that brought attention to other people, to get people to get out to vote, and I thought that helped me along the way for sure. I'm not sure if I answered the second part of your question.
No, I think you did. I mean, I think it was wonderfully. It was funny. It was uplifting, it was entertaining, it was positive, it was joyous, and it still got a very strong message across, which I think is something that is very important in trying to combine all aspects. And by the way, I call my cat Little Man, my little cat. Yeah, he's like 15 pounds, but he's still a little man. I call him Little Big Man.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to talk about what challenges they found during the process?
Yeah, I can go next. So the process for this film was very informal because this wasn't something that I could write a script for, plan beforehand. It was something that I had to just, run and gun and shoot. And I having to rely on in post to try to piece together the story, it made me I had to I just had to shoot as much as I possibly could and capture as many moments as I could. So it was just I went to 9, 10, 11 protests all over, all over Southern California. So I went to smaller ones in Irvine, Anaheim, Santa Ana, but then I went to a couple ones in LA. And I think that just being able to piece together a cohesive story through all the footage and having to sort through, it was pretty tiresome to have to sort through, hours of footage and then figure out, okay, where is this gonna go? How is this gonna tie? How is everything gonna seem like one cohesive speech, even though I probably took pieces of 20 speeches. And so it was overwhelming, but it was rewarding in the end to see it come together. And I think I learned a lot along the way, filmmaking wise, having, spending 6 hours at a protest, I'm gonna need 3 SD cards, and my camera, I'm gonna need multiple batteries. It's a lot. It was really pushing my camera to the limit as well as myself. But aside from that, I think the biggest thing that I got from this was it didn't have anything to do with filmmaking. It was just being able to go to so many protests and hear so many perspectives. It really opened my eyes a lot and gave me so much of a broader understanding of everything that was going on, because I do, as I said, I do come from such a privileged background, and I come from this sheltered bubble that I live in, that all my friends live in. And so it's not a conversation that is often had. And so being able to go to this and get so much perspective from all of these wonderful speeches, and pushing my way to the front and being right there front and center and hearing all of these amazing speeches, it allowed me to create these conversations with my peers. And that is something that I've always treasured, is having this newfound perspective that not a lot of people have. Gave me a lot more, it helped me be a lot more empathetic, and gave me made me able to bring up these kinds of topics with my parents, or their friends, or different immigrant parents. They don't always talk about this kind of stuff, so it definitely helped broaden my understanding of the whole topic.
I definitely think that the viewer got the immediacy of the moment through your lens and through your eyes, and that kind of freshness and rawness, which I think is very clearly demonstrated in your film.
Yeah, and I think I wanted the audience to feel exactly what I felt, because this is the exact, everything that the viewer gets from it is the exact same things that I got from it as well.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to add, another great question. It's crazy when you asked the question, I was like, I didn't have any challenges. And then I think back and I'm like, yes, I did. So I forgot to add that I wrote this while I was a junior in college, and my college was in a movie studio. So we got to do this on a movie studio set. And at my school, they treated us like real filmmakers here in Hollywood. And in order to get your script done, you had to be greenlit. And when I gave them the script, it was rejected 2 to 3 times. They did not understand it. They told me that I needed to add, more diversity rather than making it an all African American cast of the diaspora. And that was a lot of challenge. It was a lot of kind of like I was being a student that was kind of before her times, you know. At the time, I was going to a lot of protests, and it was just this sense of, I gotta get this thing out, even though people don't understand me. And with the rehearsal process, it took 3 to 4 months because we had to be in sync. And the challenge of that was not so much of the actors. We had to truly believe in ourselves. You know, I had the vision that I said that this would come to pass, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Where I was like, they're gonna see this one day and people are gonna understand, even though right now we are in the thick of people not understanding us. I had screenwriter teachers tell me that this made no sense. This can never work out. And once we finished everything, I got apologized from. They said, we're sorry, this was one of the best films of that year.
Wow.
And they were like, we were so wrong. And but I could see the images. I knew what I wanted. So yeah, I'm really, really proud in all of that.
It's amazing. It actually looks like a professional dance troupe. You
Yeah,
know?
one of the girls in the in Hughes, she was the choreographer of that. And we go to professional school, so we're students, but we were treated as professional people. And actually, I made her one night redo the whole choreography. So that was like one day of her just doing it really quick. Like, all right, let's do this thing out. But to get in synced beat by beat, word by word, I directed it kind of as a theatrical experience. And then once we filmed it on film, we were ready to go.
Great. Thank you.
I can speak on challenges. Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Okay. I think my biggest challenge, I'll just speak on challenges. My biggest challenge was finding people that were comfortable with being in my film with the content. I mean, in my film, I tried to be as truthful as I could be, and sometimes people don't want to hear your truth. So it was very difficult with finding people. Some people had issues with the dialogue. And in the end, I had to work around and use some people that I've used in the past, or people where we saw things the same way. But my main challenge was that people were having issues with what I was trying to say. And that's all I was going to say.
Okay, thank you.
So a challenge, something that happened, I touched briefly on it while speaking earlier. The entire goal of creating Only in Toledo was basically to help out the Sean. I don't know if people here know the story, but there was a GoFundMe that didn't go so well. When I discovered it, I figured out that due to COVID, I had plenty of time, and I went to create a film to help him raise the money needed to fix his car. And initially, I always knew I was gonna sit down and have, a conversation and record it and use the sound bites. So I made a list of questions that I was gonna ask Sean, and they were very general. And my wife, she's American, so she went through the list, and she basically, I hope I'm gonna be able to explain it well. She basically went like, you're not really, you're not really, by your questions and the answer is going to give you, people are not really going to answer, are not going to understand why he simply can't work and fix his car. And she explained to me that, there's the belief that there's the American dream, and whoever, work hard can make it no matter what. But apparently the reality is that some people are just not born equal in the economic matters of thing. And no matter how much they try and work, some things are still going to be out of their reach. And she basically gave me, she basically, we spoke about it, and she gave me a few questions that I should ask him, such as like, why don't you just get alone? And that kind of that kind of changed the entire trajectory of the film, from a film that was supposed to raise money for someone to a film that, kind of put the truth in front of people who are not very, aware of what this person is going through. So the film midway kind of just took a complete different trajectory and became what it is right now. And yeah, that's.
I like how you use the how you brought up the "only in Toledo" meme as like a derogatory kind of thing, and then it became like a kind of positive thing. Like
I
kind of flipped it,
I know. I chose the name "Only in Toledo" because every person living anywhere on the planet knows only in New York, only in LA, only in wherever, even here in Israel, only in Israel. Every place we are raised at, there's something very unique to our place. And I knew that the best way to, dismantle hate or anger or anything that is just negative is kind of owning it, kind of like what Deshaun did. When he saw the meme, he downloaded the photo and uploaded it himself, explaining the situation. That's how it went viral. So, owning the "Only in Toledo," I expected people to go in and expect something funny or something in that kind of path. And it worked. Yeah. We bought the domain onlyintoledo.com, which went straight to his GoFundMe. And went well.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone want to follow up on Renee's question? I'm sorry to butt in. I just want to let us be conscious of time. We're starting to come on to 4:30. I don't mind running a little bit over, but I don't want to hold people that have lives and other things to do too much longer. Does anyone want to talk about challenges or like surprise choices or chance? We could always talk about chance forever, or I could.
I'll talk a little bit about it, but it's Canadian Thanksgiving, so I gotta go eat some turkey soon.
Oh yeah, Happy Thanksgiving!
Thank you. So with Air Show specifically, I wrote the script, and I was looking for actors to cast, and I didn't know what was going to evolve. I just kind of put the word out that I was looking for actors, and this father and daughter, who are the actors in the film, auditioned together, and it turned out that they were former refugees. So that was really awesome for me and I started to sit with them, and I started to our rehearsals were basically them just telling me stories of leaving Sri Lanka and what that was like, and then coming here, and it really informed the script. And it also, what we decided to do, initially I was gonna shoot them separately and then shoot the Air Show and kind of mesh it together. But instead we made a communal decision that we were going to shoot it during the Air Show here. And they'd never experienced a military air show.
Oh,
so
wow.
They were willing to kind of go through that trauma, re-traumatization to tell the story. So that's why when you watch it, it feels really real, because they were actually frightened. And they were re-experiencing the aerial bombardment that they'd experienced in their lives back home. So that was a really cool and interesting development that I didn't expect to happen. I just wanted to tell this story, and it really all shaped and kind of came about in a really interesting way. And so I guess it's not really a challenge, but it was a really cool way of just figuring out how to be adaptable as a filmmaker, right? How can I tell the best story that I want to tell? Oh, let's do this with them during the Air Show. And then we also managed to get other people's reactions to the Air Show, to contradict. So they're freaking out, and then we have just regular people walking by, really excited that there's these planes flying overhead. So it was an interesting development that taught me a lot about how your filmmaking can evolve while you're making the project, because sometimes I just get so stuck on it has to be the way it is. And then this showed me so much about just the evolution and how it became something so much more than me and bigger than my vision, because I let it do that, you know, and I let go a little bit of the control.
Yeah, so it's kind of a happy accident kind of thing that you developed. Like it was an unexpected result of the film that you didn't think that this would occur at the time. It's neat. I mean, I think leaving some room for play is always an important part of a project.
For sure.
Yeah, we have to let our babies grow and evolve on their own sometimes and respond to what's happening in their reality. Well, thank you all so much. I just want to ask one more question, and I wish we could really dive in deeper to the work. I don't think I realized how many of us there would be, or how much there would. Well, I knew there was a lot to say. That part I knew. But just quickly, what is everyone hoping? And a lot of you did touch upon this, but just to clear it, and I think it's a nice way to close. And sorry to the couple of questions from the audience. They are really specific and complimentary. So maybe I'll email them along to y'all so that you can kind of just see what we didn't get a chance to cover. But what are you hoping people take away from your films? No one makes anything if they don't want to show it, unless they're like Emily Dickinson or something. And we all know secretly she wanted people to read her poems, right? So what are you hoping that your audiences take away, and this audience in particular?
I guess I'll start. The reason why I do filmmaking and why I like to tell stories is because it's the one medium where people can get in the shoes of other people outside of their own shoes. So with Hues and Hidden Kings, when you guys watch it, I hope that you guys put yourselves in the shoes of African people of the diaspora, as women of color, as men of color, to really show the humanity and empathy and the embracing of the reality and the truth.
It's beautiful. I love that. Very empathy. Yeah, that's why we do it.
I kind of want to go after her because I feel the exact same way. That with that Sydney, what she just stated, is that sometimes you want to just give the perspective of putting someone else in, in your shoes. And oftentimes I feel that there are some people that are desensitized, to things like police brutality or systemic racism. And so if you are on that end where you are desensitized, and hopefully it gives you perspective on the other end of the spectrum, and hopefully with my film that it will elicit empathy.
I'm hoping from my film that people take away my film I made, it was for Black people and people of color, to take away, to enjoy beautiful moments where you're loving your people and you're enjoying moments with your people and happiness and love, and how radical our love and existence is in every single moment. And that was the main thing. And I never meant Be in the Day to be political, I guess, but just rather a frozen moment in time of our love and beauty. So I guess what I want to get from it is to do something for yourself and to take a nap, to do something radical like that, have a fancy meal in public and be that person when the whole world is looking at you. So that's what I want to get taken away from that.
Thank you, Lakmi. And I would have to say, one thing I learned watching another film in our program, How to Overthrow the US Government Legally, is that love in and of itself can be a very radical act, and political. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
I already kind of touched upon this, but I think for me, direct action isn't always an option, but I think that it's super important. But there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. But like one of the very simplest and basic ways is to vote. So that's kind of like why my film ends the way it does, to just make sure you can at least vote. But thank you for including me in this. This has been really great.
Thank you, Clementina. And I'm just gonna echo that. Please, everyone vote. Yeah, vote for the one choice, please. I'll let,
I can go next. I think aside from trying to show everyone the true reality of the protest, just to, and as like a pushback to the media's misrepresentation, I think the biggest thing I wanted to leave everyone with is the optimism, and to show everyone that there is, light at the end of the tunnel and there's hope. And people shouldn't give up. We shouldn't stop the fight. And yeah, voting is a big part of it as well.
thank you so much, Akash.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. Yeah, what I wanted people to take away from the film was there a lot of the history that's contained in the images that I used. We're kind of seeing a lot of the stuff happening now. Akash talks a lot about protesting, and some of us have been to protests. I've been to a lot as well, and I wanted people to kind of remember that, by showing images from the past, I wanted people to remember that, hey, a lot of the struggles that we're going through now are struggles that, we were dealing with before. And I don't know if there is a optimistic and approach to this film, or if there's a optimism at the end. I don't want to say that. I don't want to be cliche and say there's optimism here. But just trying to wake people up to that cultural amnesia that we all seem to have every fucking time when it comes to these kind of issues about belonging, place, and representation. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted people to walk away, that, the past is still here.
Yes. Well, I will say, and this is a compliment, even if it doesn't come out that way, which no good compliment should open like that, but it did haunt me, your piece. So keep doing what you're doing. I think it penetrates.
Thank you.
I'll go. I guess I really wanted to throw a spotlight on our changing cultural landscape, like how things are changing and things are moving forward. And a large percentage of North American population really holds on to the way things were and the way, the traditions that we've had for years and years that make no sense, So I always am trying to look towards like how our cultural landscape is changing and what we can do as individuals and as a collective to contribute to that and to move forward and to see what's possible in the future and where change can lead us. So it's kind of interesting, like the last person that spoke, you said that, you were making sure we don't lose the past. And I think that's really important. But I also feel like a lot of like white North America especially holds on to things from the past that are no longer relevant. And that damns the BIPOC of us, that are trying to move forward into the future. So my work is always looking at like how we can change and how we can work to be inclusive of all of us and to create justice for all of us,
Yeah, no, that's really important. And I couldn't agree more, except that maybe, and I'd add like white North America, like stuck on things that never happened or certainly didn't happen that way as well. So it's not even history. It's just a recording of ideologies with little facts sprinkled in. We see that happen a lot though now, right? But thank you so much, Maya. There's such beautiful pieces. So grateful to be able to show them. I'm sorry, I muted myself before I spoke. Sydney, did we hear from you again? And Dan, I think, if you don't, oh no, Sydney spoke. You opened for us. Thank you, Dan.
I think just the message with Only in Toledo, it's pretty straightforward. Every person out there is battling their own, inner battles, and no one really knows what the other person is going through. And before we judge other people, or before we, create a meme out of them for likes and comments, we should really just, hold up for a second and remember that everybody's going through their own inner struggles. There's not a single person who's 100% happy, and any kind of action always have a repercussion, and it ripples through. So instead of, just as much as a bad action can happen, also can be a good one. And we saw a lot of really nice things coming for the Sean after the film came out. And that's what it's, all about: supporting each other, helping each other, building a community. There's so much struggle all over the place, and there's just too much of it. And we need to come together.
Thank you so much, Dan. I couldn't agree more. And this has been a lovely, lovely hour or so. I don't even know by the time I got us going with this little community here. This amazing, amazing Shorts block. You all have, like 30 more hours to watch it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Thank you so much, Dan, Sydney, Lickme, Stacey, Maya, Akash, Loga, Clementina. Did I say everyone's name? And of course, Tammy and Renee. Clementina wouldn't have let me get away with that if I forgot about Renee. Love it. Thank you all so, so very much. We are so grateful and honored to be able to show your work at Buffalo International Film Festival 2020, that year. I'm sure we'll never forget this one, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy Thanksgiving, Maya.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, audience. Thank you.